Wake up, wake up, wake up. This is your Cup of Joe podcast, and I'm your host, Joseph Moore. And we're a little different here. We're gonna, you can see us, you can see my face, you can see my guest face and everything. We're chilling in the coffee shop. If you can see, I got, back here, we got some coffee for any of the guests if y'all do it. I don't normally do coffee, but I do herbal tea. So, we're in the coffee shop chilling. We always had good conversation with extraordinary people, everyday folks, that emphasis on the extra, that some heavy hitters. And I have some heavy hitters this morning. I'm going to start to my left and I have Dr. Kenya Goodson, and right below me is I'm a friend of this alumnus of Jackson State University, but she also works at she'll tell you about herself. I have Miss Frida Dale, and then right here I have the Williams, Mr. Seifrid and Gabrielle Williams. And we are talking about buckle your seatbelts up, because I have some thinkers here. I have some very intelligent people that will probably talk and enunciate a little bit better than me. I'm from Louisville, Mississippi. It's pronounced like Louisville, but we say it like Louisfa, Louisville, Mississippi. So you hear that come out. And I'm looking forward to just talking. I'm going to start with Dr. Goodson. Just tell us about yourself, what you've done, what you do, and all that good stuff.
So hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak on this. I'm very excited about this topic, which I think is really important. I'm Dr. Kenya Goodson. I am the Climate and Sustainability Coordinator for a nonprofit called Hometown Action. We do advocacy work and community outreach. And before that, I served as faculty at Stillman College and at the University of Montevallo, as well as being an alumni of the Stillman College and the University of Alabama. So I do have a perspective as a student with HBCUs and PWIs, and also as a faculty member. So thank you for allowing me to come here and just share my thoughts on it. And I'm looking forward to having this discussion with the panelists. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, Dr. Kenya Goodson. Woo! If y'all don't know, I'm going to insert and edit. This is going to be all in here. I'm going to edit and put some claps there. Yeah, everybody. Dr. Goodson. Now, she didn't say, but I'm going to say, you worked on a few political campaigns, right? As well. Who was it?
I did.
Yeah. Was that was?
I did. I worked with Doug Jones' campaign in 2017. I'm here in Tuscaloosa, and we actually turned it blue here.
Yes.
And we won that election. I did also serve on some local campaigns here in Tuscaloosa. We didn't do like we wanted to do in 2018, but I do feel like it was a great experience actually working with people who are running for office and wanting to do something different in our community. And so, I still am active politically in Tuscaloosa. Not as much because of my job, but I do think it's very important. So, yes, I did do that in 2017 and 2018. Yes.
Awesome. Dr. Goodson, thank you again for coming. I forgot to give our topic here, y'all, but we're talking HBCUs and PWIs. I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into it. HBCUs and PWIs. And right below me, we have, I'll say the Frida Dale. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do and all that good stuff.
Good morning. You should have said from the I love, from the
I love
University, home of the Sonic Boom of the South, and the thrill of a million eyes to Princeton J-Set. Yes, I am all things Jackson State University. Let me say these comments are mine and mine alone. Like Marshall Lynch, I won't get fired. So these are no reflection of Jackson State University, Dr. Thomas Hudson, the campus president, or Ms. Patrice Edwards, who's our JSU National Alumni President, even though I am repping my 1877 this morning. And all thoughts or comments are mine and mine alone. Now that we got that disclaimer, yes, I am Frida Dale. I work at Shelton State Community College, which is one of the two HBCU designated institutions, community college institutions in Alabama. I'm also, like I said, I have my bachelor's degree from Jackson State, and I have my master's from West Alabama, and then I did my EDS online at another PWI. And so, yes, I am all things that. I'm also, as we get into talking, I'm a regional board member from JSU NAA, and I'm also the president of the Tuscaloosa chapter. So, yes, I thank you so much for having me here in my 15 minutes of fame and to rep the I Love. Yeah. So that's my thing I love for today. So once again, like I say, all comments are mine and mine alone. So don't y'all be writing. Do not send no notes to Patrice Edwards, and do not call Dr. Hudson talking about Frida Dale said nothing, because he does know my name, not just my face. He knows my name. And he knows how to contact me.
Listen.
That's it. So thank you again for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming. Listen, I'm on Twitter and I follow, I follow a HBCU Twitter feed. Listen, I think you're going to be all right. From what I've heard on there, from what I've read on there, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Because there was some Falcon, I'm like, you said that? All right. Okay. Well, bless you. Now, you were Ms. Dale, did you not worked on something that involved Shelton and Jackson State or something like that? Can you tell us a little about that?
That's a totally different conversation altogether. We have an articulation agreement with Jackson State, and Shelton does. Well, actually, all the community colleges in Alabama, all 6. But as we get into the conversation, sometimes people in different realms of education look at we trying to steal students and send them to Mississippi. So, like I said, that's a totally different podcast.
Oh boy.
But Dr. Goodson probably could say, to talk in those articulation agreements. We do have one.
Okay.
With Jackson State, and like I said, Bishop has one with Mississippi State. So it's not nothing newer that I'm trying to steal students and send them all at Jackson State. So we have that, and then I also worked on the LSAMP program, which is also a collaboration between the 4-year institutions in Alabama and the community colleges. And then when it first got started at UAB in Birmingham and at Jackson State. So to me, it's like a perfect fit. But like I said, that's a different podcast. So, Dr. Gibson and I, that's a different conversation altogether, sharing resources and things for students. But yes, like I say, I'm all things HBCU. And I love my job. And so I figured, I'm going to sit there and work, and let me just find a way to make it more, I can benefit everybody, not just the students of Alabama. So, like I said, different conversations. So they don't understand the behind the scenes that the LSAM students at Jackson State, when we graduate, all of us usually come, we didn't go to UA, we went to UAB unless we had, we was from, out of state somewhere else like Missouri or Michigan, or our chair had connections there. But the Jackson State Alabama connection has been there at least 25 years. I'm going to tell my age, but it's been there at least 25 years, because that's how I paid my 4 years through school free through the LSAMP program, and it allowed me to come home every summer. So
awesome.
So don't y'all go and try to say I'm stealing students. I'm doing. Don't y'all do that now.
I'm gonna say Jackson State. I always say I ain't go there, but I wanted to. So I always say we when I refer to Jackson State. We ain't got to steal no students. We ain't got to steal no students. So we ain't got to steal nobody. We ain't got to steal.
We ain't steal nobody.
They come willingly. I mean, why? Correct. Why not? Why wouldn't they? But anyway, I'm moving on. And last but finally not least, we have the Williamses, Seifert and Gabrielle Williams. Y'all tell us a little bit about yourselves here.
Hey, I am Seifert Williams. I'm an educator in Greene County. And I'm lucky to have Frida Dale on tonight, because I actually got a piece of the Jackson State University, which is where I started And I transferred to Stillman, where I received my Bachelor's of Arts degree in music. I also went to the University of Montevallo. I know Dr. Goodson has some connection with Montevallo, so I received my Master's of School Counseling at the University of Montevallo. Actually finishing up my third degree at the University of West Alabama. So I'm excited to be on tonight to have this conversation.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Gabrielle Williams, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a private practice here in Tuscaloosa. I am also a clinical supervisor for master's level students at the University of Alabama. All three of my degrees have come from the University of Alabama, and so I'm excited to kind of add to this discussion.
That's awesome. Awesome. And if you remember, my audience should remember Miss Williams from our last podcast where we talked about relationships, I believe. And it was awesome. I'm looking at the numbers. I looked at the numbers from it and the likes and people liking that particular episode. And, like I already knew, from the country, when we give you, I guess it's a compliment, but I always, man, that she know what she's talking about. Yeah. So I'll say she know what she's talking about. All right. And I am glad again to have you all here. Thank you all. Like I said, audience, we have some heavy hitters. They do some great work. And what I wanted to do, this is HBCUs and PWIs. Now, I didn't want to say HBCUs versus PWIs because it's always, something versus like that when you see online, about the experience and everything, and one's better than the other. I wanted to talk about both of them and talk about integration and how we build African Americans, Black people, however you want to say it, in all facets. And I think I have some people here that have the experience in both colleges. So I guess I will go ahead and start with Miss Friedadale. Tell me about your experience in college, your undergrad, graduate experience. Just talk a little bit about that for me, please.
I heard on one of your podcasts, you used to talk about your wife. She's from Red Link and how her words changed. And then so I'm telling you that the Camden, Alabama, me probably come out a little bit in this.
Okay. It's cool.
I'm not refined and like Dr. This and keep it that way. So when the Camden in me come back, I need one of y'all just wave your hand and tell me to bring it back down.
I'm not going to do it because Lewis will go stay with me. I ain't going to lie to you.
Correct. So I'm from the big city of Camden, Alabama. Like I said, 6 traffic lights big. So leaving there, I went to Jackson State during the summer between my senior year and freshman year in college. So I had a full scholarship to go to the University of Alabama and UAB. And I was a typical little child. I didn't want to be that close to home and, with my parents. So this letter came in the mail for the LSAM program, went to Jackson State, and believe it or not, I hated it. Hated with a passion. I did not want to be in Jackson on Lynn Street. I did not want to be in McAllister dorm. Did not. But what I didn't want to do was come back to Camden and work at Bill Dollars or Red and White. Those are my options. So my mama told me that I had to go to school somewhere or I had to come back home and work. And those were the 2 big businesses there in town with no degree, Red and White and Bill Dollars.
Oh my.
So after that summer, their program, and my mom kept calling and she was just like, the recruiter from Alabama State called and said that, we both can go for free, if you come on back home and, you go there. And then she said, or you can go to, you need to call UAB and tell them what you want to do. And I just, the last day, literally the last day, I just got tired. And when I asked Dr. Mark Hardy, I said, if you will, I said, I could, I would stay. But I said, I got to go on a full ride. And he said, what you mean full? I said, if I got to pay anything out of pocket, my parents are not going to let me stay and I'm going to go back home. And so he called UAB and he was asking how much money I had. And I went for free. I paid $108 my whole 4 years at Jackson State, wow, including summer. And so that seemed to be the best decision for me ever, just from the opportunity that came from being there. at Jackson State. I wanted to challenge and say that some of the things that was afforded to me, I would not have received if I had went to any other institution being there. Dr. Hardy also had a connection to the University of Alabama that he had went to grad school there. My cousin was the 5th Black person to get his PhD in chemistry from the University of Alabama. He and Dr. Hardy were friends. I found out after the fact. So I think some of my research experience and being in the LSAM program, it was because of my family connection. And I found, like I say, after the fact, we was at a conference actually in Asheville, North Carolina, and my cousin was on some panel from somebody, and he was just like, "What are you doing here for the National Institute of Health?" And I'm just like, "Oh, I'm here with Dr. Hardy for whatever." And they knew each other. So like I say, that was ended up being the best experience of my life being there, that I had the small classrooms and which I liked, which was nice there. You know, it's not like when I went to Alabama, when I left Jackson State, that was like culture shock. Can you imagine going from all Black high school, all Black college to being in a classroom where you're the only Black person, not just the only Black female, the only Black person in the classroom. So that was a culture shock. And Dr. Charlotte Carter at Stillman kind of mentored me, just like, hey, you can do it. You made it this far. You working on a master PhD in chemistry. You got to have some kind of wits about you. You got to have some common sense and some book sense. So that was like my whole 4 years coming back and forth. So I do have that Stillman connection with Dr. Carter that just kind of mentored me and just, kept my foot to the fire that, you're going to finish this degree. You're going to finish this degree. Yeah, I did, like I said, did research my whole time. And once I graduated, I still want to go back to Jackson State. No, why not? Like Zora Neale Hurston said, we've been lied on, talked about, looking to die themselves. So I became active in my alumni association. So it wasn't one in Camden, but I paid I kept my dues paid. And so, like I said, there's a different compensation back together on alumni giving. So I always gave back to my institution, whether there was the day of giving, whether it was buying a brick or whatever fundraising activities we had. That was that was my my thing there. I can say that my instructors there were very hands-on. You could not miss a class because they would call looking for you. Or when you came back, they wanted to know where you were. If you were sick, they wanted to be sure you were sick. And if you decided that you was going to, the week of right before finals, that you're going to go to Mardi Gras in New Orleans, you better come back with a good excuse on why you in Mardi Gras and not in class. So you just do what everybody do. You go get you a obituary at the newspaper and say, "Hey, this is my aunt." Hypothetically, this is my aunt. And we had to go. So since that time, I've become more refined, and I don't use the newspaper anymore. Back in the day, so now I use my time not just recruit students to Jackson State, but just recruit them to go to school. Period. And I've told them that, 4-year institution, not for everybody. But knowing what I know now, I actually got a 2-year degree and I could be making $100,000 doing something else instead of being in education. Because if you look at the job market and trends of people who have technical degrees, whether they're in nursing or if they are respiratory therapists or they are mechanics or painters, they're making big bucks. And I tell them, I said, what do you need? You need some money for school? Let me show you how to get this money for school. So I thank Jackson State all the time for that training early on how to hustle and get that money for school and how to be in every program that comes along, whether it's Mark or whether it's LSAMP or whether it's Howard Hughes or whether it's Ronald McNair. If there's a program come available and no one is applying for it, go and apply. Now the rules have changed that you only could be either an LSAMP or Howard Hughes or McNair. But back in the day, you could be in all three of them at one time just so you can get your bill taken care of. So what my guys said, Robert Miller said, HBCUs, what's that? PWIs make you hungry. PWI, what did he say? HBCUs make you hungry. PWIs make you fat. So yeah, we know how to get you fed. That's that's the take of it. He's absolutely correct. It gives you that drive to not only want to better yourself but better your community. And so that with my degree, I think I've done that.
Awesome. Well, let's go to the Williamses, Seifert, Gabrielle, y'all tell us about each one of you all's experience, undergrad. Just walk us through it, man.
Well, I guess I'll start. I had a great experience. I started at Jackson State University the summer after graduation from high school. And unlike Frida, I loved Lynn Street. I loved being away. It was a different experience for me. I was pretty much sheltered a bit. So it was good for me to get away and, just enjoy my freedom in college. And I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed Jackson State. That's where I met actually one of my best friends this summer. After I graduated high school, met one of my best friends at Jackson State University. I love Jackson State after attending there for 2 years, and then I transferred to Stillman College. I actually started out at Jackson State in computer engineering. I'm telling you, I went to school looking for the money. I did like, man, this is not what I want to do. And so I just really reassessed what I wanted to do. And then I transferred to Stillman College, where I got my undergraduate degree. Stillman was a little bit different than Jackson State as far as the population size was a lot smaller at Stillman, but it was more like a family experience at Stillman, and I absolutely loved that part about it. So after graduating from Stillman, I attended the University of West Alabama. To finish up a few classes for some certification. And then I went to the University of Montevallo. I enjoyed my time there. And during my time at Montevallo, it was much different again from the other two universities I had attended because, it was more of a PWI, and that experience was different. However, I enjoyed being in that type of environment because of what I was able to learn, just from being in that diverse setting.
Cool. Go ahead,
For me, I was at the University of Alabama straight out of high school. And so I came from a predominantly white high school and kind of school system. So I didn't have the culture shock when I went to UA. But when I think back on like the recruitment process of like universities, no HBCUs at the time were offering me scholarships or even like coming to the school to recruit. And that could have just been the area. And at the time, HBCUs weren't maybe going in certain spaces or they weren't invited, And so I went to UA, they were offering me a full ride. And, the reason why I got all 3 degrees there, I finished my bachelor's degree in 3 years. And so UA was like, well, hey, you're still under scholarship. We'll pay for you to get a master's. And so I was like, well, why not? And so I did that and I stayed again. So for me, University of Alabama was a good experience. I think because of where I had come from, it felt okay. Like I didn't feel like I was out of place. But certainly you are the minority. In all of my classes, especially in business at first, I am the only Black person there. The class sizes are a lot larger. I think it's not for everybody, depending on your personality or what type of learning environment you need. Thankfully, I am a bit of a self-starter. And so, no, professors aren't going to email you if you miss class. They're not going to care if, all of your assignments are past due. They're just going to give you a 0, right? And so if you're not self-motivated or if you feel like you need that hands-on experience, it may not be the best fit. And every student learns differently. So I had a positive experience, but I certainly would have enjoyed the opportunity to go to an HBCU. At the time, it just wasn't, presented to me as an option.
So I forgot, were you from Tuscaloosa?
I'm from Tuscaloosa.
Oh, what school did you go to? What high school? Huh?
Hillcrest High School.
Hillcrest High. Okay, yeah. Look, I'm pointing over there like everybody knows. Yeah. But okay. Your kind of that kind of happened with me. We didn't have. I mean, mine was it wasn't really we had kind of a mix, kind of 50-50 Black and white students, but we didn't have a lot of alumni in the area. And so no one really talked with me of how to get. I love the sonic boom. That's what really got me into Jackson State. and no one was there to talk to me about how to get in that. So I ended up at a PWI, University of Southern Mississippi, and I was not a self-starter. My wife is. But I'm still not a self-starter. I still gotta, set alarms and this and that. I would have benefited more from HBCU, because I spent, man, you could hit, I believe it was 25 from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and you straight to Jackson. So, every other weekend I was there anyway. But that's probably why I flunked out of Southern Miss. But I needed that, that extra care, and I really wanted to have that experience. And Southern Miss was not that large. To me, it's a little larger than Montevallo. I mean, the campus is bigger, but as far as students, it's a little more than Montevallo, and the classes were, fairly big, but you didn't get that hands-on or that care, that experience if you needed it. So, but I just didn't know how to get the money to go to Jackson State. When I just put in for myself, that's a whole. I'm getting ahead of myself, because it was how they fixed up those grants and stuff in our state, where you could get money for one. But moving on.
You had to go and like I did, go beg a little bit. I went and told Dr. Hardy I didn't have any money, and that, which was true. I did not. My parents have money. My dad always stressed that you have nothing. We have the money. And so I used that part of the story. Like, I did not have the money, and I told him I didn't have anything. And I told him it was legit. My mama had got another job to try to get me through school, and my dad did as well. So both of them was working 2 jobs. And I remember one of my grandmother's cousin came to the house, said, my mom he need to sell a cow to pay for my books or something like that. But I told Dr. Hart, I said, legit, we have nothing. And I remember my cousin came in, he had the grades. He was already 4.0. He had offers at MIT and Harvard and University. He could have legit picked his school, wherever he wanted to go. And Dr. Hardy met him. He said, I guess you live in a hut too. And he said, Frida said, I live in a hut. I live in a hut. He said, I'm tired of y'all. He wrote it just when he signed his paper right then. So that's why I tell the students now, do not sell yourself short. Go in there and tell them that you have nothing. You don't have enough. Tell them, you tell them what you have. They say they don't have anything. Then you go and tell them how much money you do have or what you can contribute. Don't you tell them no, you let them tell you no. You go in there and put all your cards on it. What you got to lose? The worst case scenario, they tell you yes, and then you got to try to figure out, okay, I got to find me a place to live now because they've given me the money to school. It's just I guess I just had a different mindset back then that,
I did not. Yeah, I wish I would have known that. I think my experience would have been a little bit different. But let me move on. And I'll get to that. We'll put a pin in that, as my bishop said. We're gonna put a pin in that and come back to it. Dr. Goodson, tell us about your experience.
So I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I went to the Central High School.
Okay.
That's what we call it, right?
Yeah.
I won't tell you the year I graduated, though. You probably see it all on my social media, though, because we have a very strong alumni connection here in Tuscaloosa. So I did not know really what I wanted to do in high school. I didn't know what school I wanted to go to. I just knew that I really liked math and science. I really wasn't interested at the time in going to Stillman. And I do want to kind of shout out my father, Mason Bonner, who was recruitment director of recruitment at Stillman, because a lot of what you all spoke to when it comes to recruitment, I think he really just had the keys to really getting students in school. And I think that's very important to have recruiters like that who can really speak to students and really do the outreach that's needed. So that's just kind of like a plug. I think that's really important based on what everyone said. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so my father was like, well, you can go to Stillman. And I was like, I don't want to go to no Stillman. I said, man, bye. I'm going to be in Tuscaloosa. I want to go somewhere. So I did end up going to Stillman because I really didn't know of any other school I wanted to go to. And so I went there on a scholarship. It was the best decision that I could have made. I really gained a real strong community at Stillman, not only with my fellow classmates, but with the professors, I had good relationships with them, and really just navigating through, being in math and science. It was definitely a different experience. But, even in that, I didn't really know what I wanted out of life. I really didn't know what direction I wanted to go in, even though I did really well at Stillman. I had friends, I had my sorority sisters, I had my, community of people. But as far as like for myself, I didn't really know what I wanted out of life. But I did graduate. I did do well and I graduated. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any kind of sense of direction. And so my dad and I had a talk, and we had a come to Jesus meeting. He was like, you need to figure out what you need to do. Like, what do you want to do with your life? And so I got to thinking about it, and I said, well, I like science and I like math. And I said, I like working with people. I really enjoyed, doing community work. And I said, well, maybe I should do environmental science. And so that's what I did. And my father showed me where they had a program at Stanford University. It was a master's of environmental management. And I wanted to also kind of talk about PWIs, because you have different kinds of PWIs. So you're going to have different kinds of experiences. So Stanford University was a small PWI. It was more inclusive, in my opinion. I felt like connected. I didn't feel like any hostility or, anything like that. I had a really good experience there. And I, got my master's there, and then I worked for a while. So when I decided to go to the University of Alabama, I was a non-traditional student. So, that's another, population of communities that you deal with is non-traditional students. So I was 30 years old when I started at the University of Alabama, and I was in there with 20-something-year-olds, and I didn't know how to use an Excel spreadsheet or know what a jump drive was. So, but I stretched myself. I said, I'm going to do this. I want to do this to better. I thought I wanted to make some changes in the world, and that's why I went. And so I went for my PhD there. That was a different experience. As other people have mentioned, they don't hold your hand. It was, those R1 universities are very different. It's like you got to get in there and you got to get it. And I wasn't really prepared for that. Not only, had it been several years since I had been in school, but I didn't really have anyone to talk to me about a PhD program. And so I just kind of figured it out. I don't suggest that for anyone, to just figure out how to do a PhD program. That is just not what it is. But I won't go into detail, but I can say that even though it was hard for me because I was unprepared, it was hard for me because, there was some, I won't say discrimination. I don't think that's what it was. Just kind of like isolation. I felt like I was kind of by myself because it was not very many of us in a PhD program. And I didn't know at the time that I was the first in the program to actually finish. So I was the first Black woman to finish my PhD in that program. So, I was in there, with people who were from all over the world. And that was an experience. That was a good experience. But I had to work really hard, and it was really, really, very, really difficult. But it strengthened me, and I was able to find a community there. I think as African Americans, you can find a community at PWIs. I don't think you're not Black enough if you go to a PWI. I don't subscribe to that. I think you can find yourself there. You just have to have a sense of yourself when you get there. So those are kind of like my experiences as a student. So that's my story.
Okay. I take something and I know for the audience, I do give prepared questions and make sure that they're, everybody's, we're on kind of the same page. But I want to bounce around. I want to bounce to, because you said something about I guess that kind of talks to having this thing about HBCUs on one side, PWI on the other. So I'm gonna be honest. So my experience, Southern Miss, majority of my friends were from Jackson. So that's how I ended up on the road to Jackson State. I ain't gonna tell y'all where I went, but it's okay. It's okay. Just know I'm saved right now. Hallelujah. But at that time, we had a lot of it was it's on campus. It was a strong it still is a strong Black alumni presence, if you will, on Southern Miss's campus. But I have friends at Mississippi State. Didn't have a lot of them at Ole Miss, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, Alcorn Valley, all of that. And so when I guess just a few years, about 10 years ago, was my first time hearing about really or seeing online I guess a divide, if you will, and maybe it's the set of friends that I have, algorithm or whatever, of seeing it, but not necessarily because I see it just from people that I don't know that talk HBCU versus PWI. PWIs better than HBCUs better than PWI. We all, I mean, Mississippi, we were just all, we were all Black. So it was, we understood that there was a difference on the campuses and everything. You don't face, some of the microaggressions, if you will. But it was really no difference in our people. There was no type of hostility there. Someone can jump in on that. Do you see a divide, and can you speak to that, or why is there a divide? And just go forth. Who wants to take it?
I guess we're gonna start back around in the circle again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I
thought I love Jackson State. I had to find myself a little bit. I really was excited about coming to UA, but I had this one professor. I was in the master's PhD program for theoretical chemistry. So if you look at your corner dishes, I was testing to make sure that the coating that was on, to make sure that when you put it in the stove, it doesn't melt or it doesn't break. Mm-hmm. And then we also was doing recycled dyes for a couple of the athletic companies, the shirts companies. So I'm just going to leave it that way. But like I said, it was culture shock going from, like I said, all Black high school, all Black undergrad, coming to UA. And I remember I had this professor at UA who told me that women should not be engineers because we were not logical thinkers. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of crushed my spirit a little bit, because I'd never had a professor to ever to say anything, even when I was slacking off at school. And, I had instructors there that was there from Pakistan or from Tokyo or whatever. Dr. Zukowski, Dr. Lee, Dr. Wodesky, they never taught. If they said anything down by any of the students that was there, I never heard it. And they definitely never said it to our face. They would pull you to the office. Now, they weren't one of the ones that call and say, hey, you didn't come to class. But when you in lab, they'll be like, hey, you need to be in class. You need to be in class a bit more often. And I think when I got my master's from West Alabama, and I love UA, went to UAB, then went to West Alabama. But even in that, West Alabama would be the next place I would say in that collegiate journey between bachelor and master's that felt mm-hmm. more like Jackson State to me. Mm-hmm. That, it was smaller class size. The professors there actually, cared about, to me, they felt they gave me the sense that they cared about me as a student, being in the classroom. And my experiences at UA and UAB, not so much. At UAB, was hit or miss with professors, but at Jackson State and at West Alabama, I felt that sense of home with both of them. That those two places were my happy spots. But I think there's definitely, like Ken was saying, there are differences in PWIs, and all of them are not created equal in the sense of student engagement, and then in the sense of molding and building up the students in the classroom. Like And as Gabriella said, it takes a special type of student to attend the PWI based on where it is. My nephew was saying that he wanted to leave Camden and go to LSU. I told him, man, come on up to the shelter. Because I know him. That would have been too much. Now he left Shelter and went to West Alabama. He went to UA and finished. That to me was an easier transition because he didn't go straight from all Black to being a true minority in a classroom setting. Mm-hmm. So I think there's two, like I said, that's a different podcast on parents and teachers being honest with students and being honest with parents on that, you want to go to school, but you need to find a school that's right for you. Right. But it's almost like finding a husband. Going on a date. You have to find that one that matches your energy as a young kid. One that matches your energy, the one that's going to bring out the best in you. So I think if that regardless of, like I said, I went down to USM doing internships in UAB, but the difference was we were all LSAMP students. And even if we had some Caucasian students in there, we were in a bubble. We were all STEM students. We were all focused. And so we didn't mingle too much with anybody outside of our little group. That even when we was at UAB and staying at Camp Hall, we all was on the same floor. So I mean, we were sheltered in that sense that they made sure that you and your cohort of students, y'all were gonna finish. So to leave, so to go to UA, I'm sitting there thinking that when I finish, I'm getting to UA, I'm gonna have that same, little network of family again, and I didn't know how to do it. And my mama, I love her dearly, but she didn't know how to give it to me. I'm calling her crying and telling her what this man said. And she told me I had two options. I suck it up and go back in there and do it. Because when I left Jackson State, I remember she asked me, she said, how many people have received a bachelor's degree in chemistry with me from Jackson State? And I said 12. Mm-hmm. And she said, how many of y'all were female? And I think it was about 6 of us, 6, 7. And then she said, how many came to UA with you? And I said 2. And then she said, so why would you expect in your classroom of 2 from Jackson State that you were going to have 30 of all at UA? And so she told me either I suck it up or I come back home and work at Bill Dolls. And so she, looking at it now, like I said, Bill Dolls and red and white, that was her thing. But she didn't know how to feed into me what I needed to be successful at UA because the only thing she had was a degree from Patrick Henry, which is now Coastal Community College. She couldn't feed into me what I needed to do. And by the time she told one of my high school teachers, it was too late by then. I was just so far gone. I was just like, forget it. I had stopped working. No, I was just like, let me just leave UA and go I think that, there's a thing too. She didn't know what to give me, what I needed at that time. Mm-hmm. And so I literally, one of my high school teachers just came and told me to come home. And I went home for the weekend. We had to regroup. We had to have a couple come to Jesus meet. And they had to, and so to get me back on track, because otherwise I don't think I would have finished. And until some of those instructors from Jackson State calling me, what are you doing? You're not in school? I know you're not. I say, no, why are you not in school? And I know they knew I went in school because they was tracking me through the LSAMP money. So the money's still sitting there and I wasn't in school. So like I say, like King and Gabrielle said again, it's that finding that nice little sweet spot for you in that place where you're allowed to grow. Mm-hmm. And I'll stop on that.
No, that's good. Good stuff. Let me go to.
I don't have nothing against UA because I have sent students because I do send students to UA. I do recruit for UA. Hold on, I do. Like I said, my nephew been over there and my cousin, so I want to listen to like, oh, she hate UA. No, I didn't get that. I just saying. I didn't get that. It ain't no dislike for UA because I would say y'all see me in my roll tide gear. Like I said, it's just being in school at that time, being 19, 20, 21. It was just like now. Oh, yeah, I could get in there and flourish because life lessons. But back then, my parents couldn't give it to me. They didn't know, and I think some of it was some embarrassment on their part of not telling their friends that, well, you know what, she got an F in theoretical chemistry, or that, or that she withdrew from class, or that she's in there, being a grad student teaching, and, it's hard. They're looking at her like, oh, she's just extra smart, whatever. And, it's almost like, it's sad that it's totally different. You got to dumb yourself down. I don't want to say that, but you had to just not let your whole light show in certain situations, in certain rooms, and then others, you had to turn that sucker on like an LED light to make sure they know, hey, I'm in here, I know what I'm doing. So yeah, like I said, it was, like I said, Dr. Carter was the one that told me that kept my feet to the fire. Even when I was at UAB, baby, you got to get it together. You got to, if y'all know Dr. Carter, she was she'll bake me some banana bread and give me over to the house, and we had that conversation. But I don't want anybody to think that I'm a UA hater. I'm just saying my experience during that time, that one instructor just wiped it out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but other than that, after that time came in, guys, I was like, oh yeah, UA is wonderful. I took a couple. Let me see my nephew over here, because otherwise I hated my money when it went there 2 years ago. It would have went to LSU or somewhere else.
I got you. Let's go to Gabrielle. Talk to us a little bit about this topic. Have you experienced where maybe the HBCU PWI thing? I mean, tell me, just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I remember kind of that conversation where it was this real debate about like, oh, you chose a PWI over an HBCU. Are you abandoning your culture? Do you not, support certain things? And a lot of times it's that you're a product of your environment and what you're exposed to. And, at least where I was from, every sports or extracurricular activity or honor society, et cetera, I was this minority kid all the way from elementary into high school. And so, unfortunately, I think they only showed us certain options, while you were there. And so I remember us having like college days and things like that. And you had people like Alabama, Auburn, et cetera, but it wasn't a Jackson State or Stillman or certain thing. And so you're not exposed to it. And so going there, I think, obviously, I had an appreciation because I didn't come from a family that could afford to send me to college. And so when UA comes, they're talking to me and they're like, hey, you're valedictorian of your high school class. We'll pay for you to come, all expenses covered, et cetera. That sounds good because I know I don't have the money to send myself. Now, I'm sure an HBCU probably could have matched that offer, but if they're not bringing those people in to talk to me, I have no way of knowing, And so as a young kid, I went there and kind of going there, I think there is, right, you do lose a sense of community. It wasn't like UA was pro-Black and like, oh, all the Black people, let's get together and make you feel at home. That wasn't the experience. To be honest, I am an introvert, so it didn't bother me terribly because I'm very much of a bye, see you later anyway. But when I see my husband's experience, I know that, okay, I did miss something because there is a sense of community that's important and doesn't exist there. Do I think one is better than the other? No, I think you have to go where fits you at that season of your life. And UA did do that for me, but I think HBCUs have a lot of value to offer.
Mm-hmm. Cypher, go ahead.
Yeah,
sir.
I can, my experience with Jackson State and then, at the University of Montevallo, it was almost like it was two things that I needed. One was culture, I was familiar with that. Then the other was diversity. I was familiar with the culture. I love our culture. So, I enjoyed my time at Jackson State. And so, but my time at the University of Montevallo was more of a learning experience for me, even socially with people outside of my race. And then you're looking, I was the only Black individual in my cohort going into school counseling at that time. And the only male at that time. So, I had two things working against me. And so, I'm like, and I'm telling you, it was an experience to learn about, these women, and having to interact with them, something I had never had to do because I went from an all-Black high school to an all-Black, a predominantly Black university. And so, at the University of Montevallo, it was something different for me, but at the same time, it was a learning experience as well. So, I had on one end, there's culture, then the other end, there's diversity.
Okay, good deal. Dr. Goodson, what do you think about this supposedly divide we have, or versus, if you will?
Yeah, I had been seeing a lot of that on social media where people were saying, well, you should go to HBCU if you want to be Black. And, people will go back and say, well, look, I'm Black and I went to PWI. So it was a lot of back and forth. And I think I was saddened by that, actually, that, we would use our experiences to divide us that way. I was kind of sad because I went to both. I went to HBCU and I went to PWI, and each of those gave me some really good experiences. So, I think, as Gabrielle mentioned, you do what's good for you. I think there's a place for PWIs and African Americans. Our ancestors thought so. Vivian Malone Jones thought so. Authoring Lucy thought so. that, Black people should have an opportunity to go to whatever school they want. And I think that's the point. You decide nobody should tell you can't go to this school. If you want to go to an HBCU and get that experience, go to HBCU. If you want to go to a PWI, no one should tell you can't go because you're not good enough to go to this school. And we know that that's false, that, Black people are not less intelligent than white people. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of like my thoughts that come up. And that's what I would tell anyone whenever they say, well, they should go to HBCU. They need to support HBCUs. Well, everybody is not going to learn in a HBCU. Everybody is not going to, flourish in a PWI.
Right. So
you just have to know what works for you. As far as my experiences, I definitely, to speak to what, is it Siegfried? Am I saying it right? I learned a lot about cultures at both HBCUs and PWIs. So Stillman definitely had a sense of culture and family and community that we still take pride in, even 25 years later. That's when I went there a long time ago. And also at UA, I developed a culture. I developed a culture with African-American graduate students. We developed a very close relationship, and we still are connected to this day. And also with people outside of my race, outside of my culture. I'm going to say this on this podcast, and I'm ashamed, that I had certain views about people with certain religious backgrounds until I got to UA. And when I started to interact with people from different religious backgrounds, from different nationalities, I grew so much, and I learned so much about people that were outside of my culture. And it really grew me as a person. Mm. So even though I kind of had some struggles at UA, I have some very meaningful cultural connections there, some very meaningful relationships there. And I also got those at Stillman. So, and I think I got more pro-Black, to be honest, when I went to UA. I went natural when I went to UA. Walking around there with an afro after 20 years. So, I mean, you can't determine who a person is by the school, right. And everybody, like Gabrielle said so powerfully, all of us have a different way we learn. We thrive in different learning experiences and different learning environments. Yeah. So those are my thoughts around.
Yeah. I think for me, I needed at least an HBCU first. To tell you my story, I went to Southern Miss, and most of y'all know I deal in music. That was my first major. It was music industry. Well, first of all, it was kind of a made up degree. It was a music theory degree, but they said music industry, and I took one industry class in it. And
we call that interdisciplinary.
That's what it was. That's what it was. And the rest of these classes. So I'm used to, whatever I learned musically was by ear. So I'm jumping in these classes, and they're doing theory and stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I think I was the only Black person in that class, and they're sitting playing stuff at the piano. And this story is the story I want to get to. Is I think where I missed it was with Jackson State. I could have been a part of the choir there. I missed the audition. No one told me about it or anything like that. But I auditioned at Southern Miss, and one of those microaggressions came up. So I auditioned with the guy. I was just about to say his name. I ain't gonna say his name over there. But I'm in there and I'm singing. I'm hitting every note that he plays, and I'm saying, I'm doing, I've already heard sing from your diaphragm, and I've already rehearsed to sing in a certain way. Don't get too much vibrato. Don't do. And still, he said, he just went into singing correctly, and how some people don't sing correctly. And like, for example, Whitney Houston is a great singer. but I don't think she sings correctly. And I'm like, and so I looked at my mama's face. I had to put my hand on her thigh, like, but don't embarrass me up here, don't you? She kind of cried. I didn't like what he said about Whitney Houston. I know what he meant, but and so that was like my first experience there. And then the choir there, it was not it was an okay experience, but I did have support from Black people. I needed an extra hand because I wasn't going to class, but that was just me, and so I ended up going back to Meridian Community College, then going to Troy University, getting my bachelor's and then my master's. But I will say that one experience though kind of set the catalyst for my for at least my year or two, because I kind of, although I had friends there and although I was in class, I was doing okay when I went to class. I kind of missed being around someone like me. I was tired of singing the way I was singing, and things of that nature. So how do y'all deal? And maybe this is for Gabrielle, for you. How do you deal with certain things? And because you can experience too, as well as an HBCU, not much, but certain I call them microaggressions, deal with that. Or what would you say to someone that has to deal with that too? How do you navigate those things? Or have you had to navigate?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, that is something that started very early because, I was in a school system where, I'm a minority, that's the experience there. And so, when I think about it, some of the most prominent examples happened to me when I was in high school. So before I even reached UA, that was commonplace. And it's sad to say because you don't want to train people to be, guarded like that, but you're kind of taught early on, look, you're going in this space is not created for you. You're going to have to work twice as hard. I know you're smart, but these people aren't going to give you anything because you deserve it. You got to go out there and you almost have to take it to a degree. And so whether it was, like I said, academic clubs or social things or athletic, what have yous, I've always been one-on-one, right? I'm either the only Black person doing it or, maybe two. And unfortunately, when you're in spaces like that, people say some things that are very hurtful. And it is the microaggressions, whether comments about your skin or your hair or how you talk or where your family is from. And I had to learn early on is that, those people in those spaces may not get me, but Gabrielle has to get me. And it's something really simple as I've always introduced myself to people as Gabrielle. But when I was in those spaces, a lot of times my white peers, et cetera, would call me Gabby. They wouldn't ask me if I was okay with it. They would just shorten it and say, oh, we're going to call you Gabby. And it was, easy for them. They like that. But I like being called Gabrielle. And so one of the things I did when I did go to UA is I took back power over my name. It sounds real simple, but I made it a point that every professor, every colleague, I'm Gabrielle and I prefer to be called that. And when I do encounter microaggressions or when I did at UA, I'm vocal, right? I'm not going to just sit by. I'm going to say, hey, that was a microaggression. That's kind of racist. You know that, right? And it gets uncomfortable. But I think when you sign up to be in certain spaces, you got to be okay having an uncomfortable conversation. And not everybody likes that. So you're going to run into some people. I'm not racist, or that's not what I meant. But, you have to call it like you see it, and you got to be secure in yourself. And I think Dr. Goodson mentioned, you can go anywhere to discover yourself. And so it doesn't really matter if they know you, you got to know you. And that's something that I did to navigate it.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask this to Cypher. So buckle your seatbelts up. I'm gonna ask you what. Well, I'm thinking it's gonna be one of buckle your seatbelts up. So it might not be. So let's go back to why we had, of course, we all kind of know the history and why we had to have Black colleges in the first place up until now. So I'm gonna start it off with Cypher and then anybody else can jump in. So, is it, will we have been better off HBCU? I mean, instead of dealing with those, because where you had Gabrielle that had to deal with them, but you had me, and I mean, those things totally threw me off, being in class and you sung all your life and you're thinking, I'm just singing. And, you know, you have this professor of another persuasion and different culture. You're doing this wrong. You did. I like, bro. I haven't even before we even get to the wrong. I haven't sung the notes wrong.
Gotcha.
Oh, you sung it right. You did it right. But we got to make sure we sing it correctly. Well, what is correctly and so, you know, then you bring up Whitney Houston and, oh yeah, it was Luther. All my heroes, man. I was just like, you know, bro, you starting out wrong. Luther and Whitney, you getting out. But and so my feeling back then, I was like, dude, I could have been at Jackson State and I dealt with this. So what? Just talk about, I mean, was that a good thing? Or if it, you know, because our ancestors felt it was to get into school and for us being able to go where we want to go. If it was, then how do we bridge that gap, or how do we bridge that gap to go from feeling like we have to assimilate to integration? I'm gonna start with you, Cypher.
Well, I got you. I think for the most part, there were so many barriers, things that you had to kind of work through before you were able to really get that education that you needed. And I had an experience similar to yours, actually, but the outcome was a bit different. I came from a high school, you know, going into music. I didn't learn how to read music. You know, here was my thing. You know, you put a sheet of music in front of me, I couldn't tell you what I was looking at. So I'm telling you, I got to when I got to Stillman. I got it. I was in the choir, you know, they understood. I let them know, hey, look, I don't read music and this is the choir director. And so I don't know if it has a lot to do, but I'm feeling that it has a lot to do with the PWIs and the HBCUs. Well, this professor grabbed my hand and said, hey, we're going to teach you, you know, we're going to teach you. We're going to show you. They worked with me. They connected me and partnered me with someone. And by the end of my time at Stillman, I was the bass section leader. You know, and that's how much they work with me, you know, at Stillman. In addition to that, you know, I had, you know, within myself, made up in my mind, you know, look, I got to do this, you know, because there's some other students, you know, where I came from, you know, that are going to feel the same way that I feel. And I was in a bit of a challenge as well, because I started out, you know, in music business, you know, which was something they knew they came up with at Stillman, you know, and semester before graduation, they dropped the whole major, you know, which forced me to go straight music, which means I had to learn recital music and do all of these things. But the support that I had, you know, made it a lot easier for me. So there was some barriers that I didn't even have to worry about because I had that support. You know,
Great. So, Miss Dale, yeah.
No,
what do you think about?
I think sometimes it's two parts. Let me start with this one. I think sometimes people have the wrong perception of HBCUs. They think the only they've seen of HBCU, what they've seen on School Days and or Do the Right Thing, or so those type movies that, you know, they think that that's what the school is. And my dad said, you know, any school you go to could be a party school, you know, whether you at Shelton or you at UA or you at Jackson State, wherever you are, you know, is what you make of it, you know, while you're there. But I think sometimes it's the perception of what an HBCU is, because they have not been there. And you know, in the past couple of years, you know, more lights have been on HBCUs and things. But I'm like, but you're reading College of News, you know, report, you know, Jackson State has always been in the top 50 for, at one time it was in the top 20 for business producers, because all the students, you know, they was coming from Jackson State for business, you know. So I think it's that part too, that there are some sections of people that don't see the other good of, you know, HBCUs, that, you know, when IBM going recruiting and they go and get minority students, they're not coming to UA. They're gonna come to Jackson State, you know, and they're doing the heavy recruiting of minority students. They're gonna go to Jackson State or Alabama State, or they're gonna go to HBCU to find those students. And like Gabrielle, my daughter went to the same school, so she went from all Black middle school to a mixed school, you know. So I think she learned faster that diversity piece than it took me to learn that at West Alabama. So, I remember we was in high school and they had this training course in Camden. Now, we legit could have one high school, but we have public school, private school, and we would go to the ACT prep classes on Saturday. The Black kids on one side of the table, the white kids on the other side of the table. And then these were some of the kids that the father worked, work part-time with their father. So we would talk when my dad would be at work and we'd be down there together. But then when we get to this ACT prep course and we're in the same space, it's, you don't know me, I don't know you. My mom was like, no, she may not talk to you when you get down there. And then to fast forward now that both our kids end up at South Alabama together. So like my daughter, I know she wouldn't have, it's bad, but she wouldn't have made it at Jackson State or any HBCU just because of her high school experience. Like Gabrielle, she wouldn't have fit in as quick because she'd been looking for the diversity piece. That she'd be waiting to have some Caucasian friends or some Indian friends or, but she wouldn't have had that at a HBCU because, because Caucasians and Indian or other ethnicity, they're the minority there. Mm-hmm. So I think, like I said, too, it's that cultural divide of, where you raised, where you go to school, whatever. So even though there were some time out, UA folks would come for recruiting, but they would get to the top, only they would come recruit, be the top 10 or the top 5 to offer them scholarships. And it wouldn't be like a table there. It would be individual recruiter, whereas Alabama State and A&M would come in full on, table set up, recruiters coming in, they bring the band, they're doing a whole dog and pony show to get those students to come there. Whereas UA would come or UAB, they'll have a table, but they're going to ask, they would specifically ask, who the top 10, who are your honor roll students. And so to me, you looking at it now, like they were looking for the best of the best. They were looking for, who are your top scholars? Because these are the students most likely to graduate. These are the students that are going to help our retention and graduation numbers. And so if you were beyond the top 20, they weren't recruiting you as hard. But, the HBCUs were. They were still saying, our school is open for all. As long as you have at least a 16 ACT, we could take, if you serious about earning a degree, we will work with you. So I think that microaggression probably even started in high school. It's just like some subliminal stuff that we just, we probably back now like, yeah, they did go and recruit my friend that played basketball, but they did come and talk to, this sector of students. So, but how to bridge the gap between it is, I think now it's like I said, it's being done, but it's like so quiet that if you're not in a certain, if you don't work in a certain area, you don't know that you wouldn't know that there are partnerships already in place. I can speak on, like I said, it's just mine. It's not Shelton or Jackson. If you don't know that these programs already exist, that you can get an LSAM program in Mississippi and decide if you don't like it at Jackson State for whatever reason, you don't like it. You want to come back, to Alabama. Why? You can come back to UA or Alabama State or A&M or UAH. You can pick any school for your school in Alabama, come and attend. Or you don't know that the class that you take at Shelton would transfer to Jackson State and back again. Would be the same class take at Shelton, transfer to UA and back again and get your associate degree. So it's almost like I said, my parents, they probably better than now to help some folks. They think they're just professionals now to tell people, but back we ain't gonna talk about that time ago. They can't go in, they couldn't tell me that because they didn't know. They legit had to go to the school and ask one of my, ask somebody that was teachers, like, how can I help Frida succeed at this point? Because they couldn't do it. So I don't know how to bridge that gap, or that gap it'll be bridged just because the way funding is set up, just schools in Alabama, period. So
I was gonna get to that part. I'm sorry, Dr. Goodson. No, you're good. I'm gonna go to Dr. Goodson. Go ahead.
I think Ms. Dale got me stirred up over here with the discussion, but
you even raised your hand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's okay. I was gonna let you finish.
Ms. Dale, you got to fire up, right?
Next. Yeah, I just want to know. I want to go next.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I'll try to be brief, but I don't think it's really up to the students to bridge the gap. I think it's up to administrators and people who are in position to make policies around education. faculty members talking to students and telling students they don't belong there. That should never happen at any institution. But when you have a particular college or a particular department that doesn't see the necessity of having diversity in their institutions, that is why you have that kind of behavior. And so I think, me as a student coming in, I don't have that power and influence unless I have a group of people coming together to say, this is what we want to see, right? So you almost got to do like a protest. But I think, I think that administrators and people who are in leadership are responsible for bridging those gaps and being proactive, not saying, oh, I got to get these federal dollars. So, I got to get, X amount of students in, and you have absolutely no interest in retaining them and seeing them graduate. So I just wanted to share that.
That's good. That's good. That's where I was going to go to is, do you think it's, that was going to be my question. I guess, Frida, since you kind of opened the door, because my question was going to be, how can we build up that status where, they're kind of on the equal footing where, because I taught at a school once that a few of the students, they were athletes, and but the school only invited like UA, Auburn, mostly PWIs, recruiters, and HBCU recruiters were trying to get on to campus, and they wouldn't let them on, or they would, wouldn't call them back or wouldn't reach out to them. And some of the guy, I got a friend now, he said he is mad with one of the coaches from back in the day to this day, because he said, man, he messed up my scholarship to Alabama State because he would never give me he wouldn't give the recruiter my name or anything like that. So Frida, I'm trying to see how to word this question. So how do we get, to that status? What do you think? Is there a formula, or certain people? Is it purely a government thing, or is there some kind of way alumni or something can get it to the status? Because not, like you said, not everybody's going to HBCU, but not everybody's going to Mississippi State, University of Alabama, Ohio State, Oregon, as well. They want and need that type of structure that is at an HBCU. So talk to that, Ian, will you?
Again, I might need to refer back Dr. Goodson on this one. This one on cases of, like she said, it's administration and those who we elect. So for example, let's just look at UA and Auburn. They are a line item on the Alabama budget, right? And then where you have just say, well, Stibness private. Let's see, you pick any other school in Alabama that's not on that line item list, then you're not getting money. So you need that funding to make some things happen. Like, for example, Jackson State been in the news, so everybody's seen Jackson been in the news and like, oh, you just need a new stadium, you need the stadium fixed, then we're good to go. So my thing is, you can't get a stadium built in Jackson State, because if you get the stadium, then the students gonna come. Where the students gonna lay their head? So we need dorms, because just like at UA and any other school where athletics brings the money in, it also brings in students. So if you have students who come to campus and they're able to lay their head on campus, in a bed now, on campus, then that's where that funding comes. So that's why when UA numbers increase, they're able to build some dorms. They're not departments, they build a dorm on campus for those students. Once you get the students on campus, then you can get new fancy buildings and new fancy programs, right? So that's part of where the divide lies. So you just can't, people say, oh, well, Jackson got all that money when Coach Sanders was there. Okay, no. Hines, Rankin, Madison County, for example, they collectively just say this past year for the 4 home games got $30 million. That's not $30 million to Jackson State. That's $30 million to between the city of Jackson, Brandon, Pearl, where the hotels are. They ain't get the $30 million, but that's between hotels, restaurants, buying gas. That's what the $30 million is. So I think, like in the big city of Camden, you can't go and raise taxes down there to 10-12%, because them people, they barely making $20,000. So,
same with Louisville.
Right.
Yeah.
So how can you raise? So like I say, it's almost like who you want to blame. You want to blame the elementary teacher, the middle school teacher? Who you want to blame? Do you want to blame the people who are in that town who are somehow blocking industry from coming in? Do you want to blame the industry that are in town that's not paying taxes because they're paying taxes back in their home state, not back in Alabama? Do you want to blame the people in Montgomery because they're not, the people we elect, they're not fighting harder for us to get our tax dollars back to those rural schools that really need the money? It's like where does it go? When my daughter was at Hillcrest, I remember my daddy saying, even in middle school, did you send her to a private school? Only because she had to buy those reading books for English class. Whereas in Camden, they gave them a reading list, but they picked one book. At Hillcrest, hey, these are the 14 books that you need. You can go buy these books. So there's a difference between Camden and Hill, in that regards. So, and then someone, like I said, it's just mindset. And what my friends, her mom said that, some Black people at the point they practice being poor all the time. They never got me on that point of practice being poor. You better stay at shelter. You may not be changing jobs, but be glad you got that job. Whereas another parent sit there and say, well, if you maxed out where you are and if you grown where you can, you got a degree, you have the training, go find you another job. Yeah. So like I say, I don't know where it started with the mindset of the people, or does it start with the people that we elect, which is still too the same thing as mindset of, you can buy my vote. So because you gave me, a fish dinner or a chicken plate, then I'm going to put you in office because you said what you're going to do. Or do you keep re-electing folks who are not voting your interests? So I don't know where it is. It's like an endless cycle that, with that PD, that plan, do, act cycle that, you could just pick a point and jump in there and you could fix one little thing. I don't know you could fix it, but I know you can make some changes that could make it better. So I'm still to say, I don't know where it begins other than mindset and money. And so
because I when you said about elected officials, I go back to the state of Mississippi where you had an elected official with another just private citizen pulling money from a place that went to people.
Correct.
For a volleyball state whatever at my school, Southern Miss, of millions of dollars, and that's disheartening,
Right. Or you look at the funding. Like I said, I can talk about Mississippi. That's what I am. Or instead of them funding Jackson State and Alcorn equally, your thing would be, let's merge them together. The alumni would never.
Yes, I remember that. There was conversation. Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying. So you look at how to bridge that gap and make it better. Their thing was like, well, their mindset was to make Jackson State Alcorn, for example, comparable to the old Mississippi State, is put them together. Why? Why do you have to put us together? I love my school. I can speak for me, for my school on my own, not for the president, but we get enough to be self-sufficient on our own without needing it to. If you give us the resources we need, we can compete with you. Why don't hold it on to us? Or for example, like when the teachers get a pay raise, Alabama State A&M Board of Trustees, they hold on to the money. They might even get the raise for another year. They hold the money. So whereas UA and Auburn, the same thing, get the money at the same time, they get the teachers get immediately. So, it's like, why do you have to hold A&M and Alabama? Why you have to hold them like they're little kids? Why can't you go ahead and give it to them right then? Or because you mad at whoever the president is or whatever, you decide you're not going to give them their pay raise. So this is stuff like behind the scenes that people don't know and don't see. So like I said, I had to be careful with my words because I still need my job and my insurance.
We
But
don't,
yeah, you know,
we
so
don't want to cause that to happen. But.
don't want them paths to cross. But I'm just saying these are facts that anybody that go look, you can go fact check me from AL.com to Google. Don't look on Wikipedia, but you can go and fact check these things that are happening. That is still some systems of we want you to do better, but yet still we'll hold on to it, or you'll approve the money to then say that you're going to make renovations on state of A&M campus or A&M campus, for example, but you still hold the money for a while or roll it over to the next year and just say, we're not going to do it. We're going to wait and do it. So, you know, like I say, it's the people that you put in office that even though state A&M may be on the state budget, it's who governing them, you know, or who's backing the people that's governing those institutions, the progress that they're making. I mean, look at those 4 schools and look at them, the buildings that's on campus, the renovation that's being made. You know, so it is A&M and state get the same. It's just like, you know, a stark difference in the two. So that's I don't know where you know where that bridge lies, and you know, I don't, like I said, you know, we do need that diversity in a sense because you know, it's sad to say, you know, Black people don't have that money to do it, or they have the money not giving back to their, like back to the alumni giving again. We're not giving that back. When I saw Coach Stan, even at UA, when you do the tour, they have some of the alumni who donated like the weight room and things. One of these days, my dad's gonna win the lottery, and I'm gonna go to Jackson State. And he's gonna say Frida Dale, weight room or something, you know, something on there. But I would love to have some room on campus with my name on it, or my family's name, and say that we did that. Right. But you notice that us as African Americans at our institutions, we don't pool our money together to do that. Then we win the lottery, we're gonna go get a brand new house, car, or even when we die, we don't leave part of our insurance money that to go. You can't do that. You can leave your insurance money to go back to your HBCU institution of choice, whether it's Jackson State or Stillman or Miles. You don't leave that money for them. You leave it for your family folks. Whereas other people, when they decide, they're like, well, you know, I want to give $10,000, $20,000 to the University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And that's back to, you know, mindset again. So like I said, that's a totally different podcast altogether. I'm like, listen, you got me fired up on that one. I'm gonna mute myself now.
No, you're good. I mean, yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. I do like that with the Prime, and now you have Ed Reed coming on the scene. It does shine a light on things because you're saying things that I didn't know about. I asked as well, like, how the money flow, because I think Coach Prime nor Coach Reed was as educated as they need to be on how money actually flows at an HBCU to get it to the status of a PWI. And
he didn't understand. I think some of it, like I said, when you and I had a conversation, he didn't understand the pooling of the money together, or how he needs to, when he had the money coming in, or they say, oh, he spent his own money. Okay, he chose to have Margaret Foles in it. He was already going to make renovations anyway. Mm-hmm. Some personal changes he wanted. The school said, hey, that is not in the budget. It's already approved. This is what we have to do. He said he didn't want that floor and that he would pay for it. And they were just like, okay, bet. IHL signed off on it, and he got this marble floor that's in there. But if he, like I said, he didn't understand, there was like a little learning curve that he didn't understand about that. And in the same way now, even in Colorado, he was just like, well, I'm not wearing Nike. He mad from Nike from 20 some years ago, but you know, he had that Nike on now. Because they tell him like, hey, you know, you can change the Jackson State because the contract is already up. So we have Under Armour champion. You could change okay, you want to wear Under Armour? Okay, that's fine. You can't do that with, you know, so
we Nike.
We Nike. So I think now it's just trying to, like I say, it's a mindset thing. It's a learning curve that he's trying to get over. See, like I said, that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
but
because I knew even at UA, Saban didn't have that much, like when they won championships, that money went to the Southeastern Conference, and it was divvied up among Tennessee.
Some of it came to him, and some of it came to the institution. So you could think about when I first got here, we didn't have all of them dorms and things at UA, back in 2008, 2009. But once they started winning championship and the money started coming to the school, what did you see? Dorms coming up, building the properties, new programs added. So I think that's something that people don't understand either too, that, I hated when Stillman got rid of their football program. I'm like, oh, look, the money gonna come in from the athletics because they're gonna come to the game. And, so we get the alumni coming in, they're gonna be given. So now you got, getting the dorms in, and from there, get your accreditation back. But I think people, once they understand the flow of the money, maybe that's what needs to start at. Start with the flow of the money. And then once we understand a lesson on flow of the money, then we could work on the mindset, at the same time. Work on the money and the mind at the same time. Then from there, we could probably make that, build a little bridge.
Little walkway, something like that. So Seifert, I'm gonna bounce this question to you. So at your time at Stillman, Frida said something about, Ms. Dale said something about mindset. Do you think, because you see this thing now where they say that maybe the mindset of the administration of HBCUs and might be a little not up to where it needs to be? Because, when we looked at Stillman, they had the football going. And I was a little upset, too, because at the time I taught at a school that was predominantly Black, and a lot of our kids had scholarships there. And so they ended up they're just at home. But they were really looking for their football and things like that. So do you think maybe the mindset of administration as it relates to money, HBCUs, give me your thoughts on that.
I would say that that's a strong possibility. And I think Dr. Goodson said, that it begins with the administration and the leadership. Of course, there's not a lot the students can do, but I do think the mindset of the administration makes a difference. And that's across the board, So with the mindset about money, yes, I agree that, the mindset of when it comes to money and administration, it does make a difference. And it could very well be that, they may not know how to navigate, and what to do with, with the money and the decisions to make. So that could possibly be an issue as well.
Okay. Because I just saw in the chat that we did have at Stillman. I don't know who said that. Was that you, Dr. Goods, that was talking about Stillman's the football program? We had a lot of debt, too much debt at the time to keep that going. I do know they had some issues. That's why we had was it Dr. Warwick came in, kind of helped out with a lot of the issues for his debt and for his managing the money and things of that nature. So this is a question for anyone. Do you think that on either side, does there need to be a mindset? Well, I know the answer to that, but if there's a mindset change, then I think you already answered that. But I guess administration, first of all, I need to know how that works. So I know in Alabama, as far as Stillman, what's the process of how they choose that administration? Does alumni have a say in that, or is that, I know that there's a board for Alabama State Education. Is that, am I correct in that, or am I a little off in that? Somebody help me out.
Well, the Board of Trustees is involved in selecting a president for Stillman. And I do think there is room for feedback from alums, to give feedback on who we think the president should be. I know that Dr. Warwick is getting ready to retire, so we're in that process now, possibly selecting, and this is public knowledge, so,
Right, yeah.
Selecting another president. So yeah, the board of trustees is the main entity that's involved in that process.
Okay. All right. So my question, it may be a final question, may not be, I don't know, is because this is my Black History Edition. So I'm talking to my people specifically, but also talking across the board here with the issues that we still face, and seeing that, listen, PWI, HBCUs, it's college. I do agree with Roland Martin in this fact. He was like, listen, it matters where you go, but when they look at that degree, they look more at you than you saying, oh man, you got it from Penn State. Yes, I'm going to hire you. So how do we continue? And I'm going to start with the Williams. How do we continue just to navigate this? Because we know change. I believe change is going to happen. I really feel like with everybody loves football, and with seeing what happened with Coach Sanders and now you have Coach Reed and that happening, and then seeing some of the guys going on professionally to produce well, so folks can see like, man, they can come out of, athletes come out of, and then it also shines a light on, man, they've HBCUs have had successful people in every field. Anyway, how do we continue on to navigate this piece of HBCUs, PWIs, handling, walking in PWIs, handling, I guess, some of the microaggressions, and I guess handling the fact that, HBCUs we're not getting the funding and all of this stuff. How do you still kind of navigate this higher ed piece? I'm gonna start with you all, if that made sense.
Yeah, it does. Knowledge still has a ton of value. And so I think we can do what we can with what we have. And so each of us has a voice, each of us has influence. And so whether it's your own household, your own kids, people that you mentor, people at church, people that you volunteer with, use your influence to gain exposure, to expose these kids and other people to other realities than what they presently see. And, that's not to push one agenda over the other, but just gaining knowledge from exposure and lived experience helps people open up their minds to make a choice for themselves. Ultimately, you don't want to make someone's choice for them, but if we can use our voice and say, hey, let me take you to this recruitment event, or let me take you to see this, or let's tour that, or let's talk to somebody who's been in this space or been to this university, you open up their mind. And once you open up their mind, the right pieces of information can infiltrate and they get to make a choice. And so I would just admonish all of us to do our part in exposing. Even if we can't elect administrators or affect the leadership, we can expose and we can give voice to reason. And maybe that's where we start.
Yeah, I totally agree with that exposure piece. Being that, there are some students or some schools that don't, welcome, HBCUs and vice versa, that exposure and doing what we can and being the voice that we need to be for those individuals to expose and open them to new opportunities. Also, I think, don't want to look at it as, HBCUs is almost like a lost cause and that we'll never get to where we need to be. I think as long as we start putting the right people in the right places, I believe we'll start seeing some greater changes, and I think we've seen a little bit of it, a small portion of it at Jackson State. We get the right people in the right places. I think things will start moving in the direction we want them to go.
Mm-hmm. So let me move on down to Miss Dale. How do we continue just to navigate? Because change coming, but it's slow, and
But again, I agree with the Williams that it's on exposure, and like I say, the little small town down in Kim, I can say that the high school alumni now, I can say the professional ones, we got to the point that we've taken students on recruiting trips, and that we've had teachers that bring them to Stillman, because it's sad to say that even in 2023, that in some of these rural towns, we may have students who've never been to Montgomery or, been to Selma across the bridge, or they've crossed the bridge and said, no, that's the same, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., bridge kind of thing. So, I think a lot of it's on exposure, and for a while, the only HBCUs you can go to get a meteorology degree was from Jackson State. So most of the local weather folks there, they would come to Jackson State, take classes, but it was going out as commuter students. So I think it's shining a light on what HBCUs can offer. Like you said earlier, that people are seeing now that you can go to HBCU and be successful. There's a guy, I forgot what team he plays for. There's a kicker, Caucasian guy with the Arkansas Pine Bluff, that he always references Arkansas Pine Bluff, jersey and things on. So he was doing it before Coach Prime, but I think now that since we had Coach Prime there and we've been in the prime time and the lights, now people go, oh, y'all can do that HBC. Oh, y'all had that there. I'm like, we was on Motown 25, we've been there. Or you seen Southern Band on home, at Thanksgiving time, making the score. But like I say, or my little microaggression thing is that, they play LSU and they told them to make the score. Why would you make the score you 0 and 60 or whatever it was, So back to the mindset thing. But I think now it's the light of, what HBCUs can offer and affordability of HBCUs as opposed to going to some of the bigger institutions. And I think too, as great Ms. Williams said, that, it's back to find that school to make you feel like you at home. Make you say they know that you feel that you fit, that you can have your own little citizen culture and diversity that's there. And most HBCUs now are not just predominantly 100% Black. That you look at it now, almost at Jackson State, that we probably about 60-40, that, of students that's there. So I think, too, like I said, is what you make of it once you get there at that institution. And so, yeah, I think that's probably it, that, looking at shining some light and, podcasts like this that give us opportunity to talk about I love my dear old college home. Shameless plug again, but like I say, it gives opportunity to talk about, Dr. Carter's at Stillman, or or even like Dr. Dale that's at a PWI that's still helping African American students to be in STEM or to get them enrolled in school. His name Louis Dale, we are related, but all together getting students in school. So I think too, like you say, it makes a difference too on the faculty members at those institutions. That Mr. Williams and Dr. Goodson both said there was a Montevallo that had some faculty members who embraced them and gave them the culture and diversity. So I think too that makes, like I say, go back to that mindset that it changes the whole culture of it. And then I guess too, it go from us stop practicing being poor, that we waiting on winning the lottery or insurance thing before we can get back to our institutions. So once we get some alumni dollars in there, then we can effectively make some change. Auburn can't lose Alabama too many times, so there'll be some problems. So I think if we had some big time donors giving back to Jackson State or Alcorn or Southern, giving back to an institution, then we can affect change. That we can tell them that we need some new dorms, so we can tell them we need more than new programs. We need the students to come in to keep the faculty members that's there and to help the institution grow. So, but thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I thank you all. So, Dr. Goodson, I'm gonna put it in your hands as well.
Ditto to what everybody said. Definitely on exposure, exposing students to institutions and being able to share our personal stories and be a mentor to them, I think is really important. And that's what I liked to do even when I was teaching, is to serve as a mentor to students and to serve as information to give them, serve to give them information that they need. I think that's really important. And money. I mean, that's how you become competitive. And I believe if HBCUs, as Ms. Dale mentioned, if HBCUs had the money, had the resources, I think we could stand toe to toe with any institution because we have that infrastructure and we have people that really care, faculty that care, administrators that care about the students. So not saying that doesn't happen at PWIs, but I guess my point is, I think, when people have what they need and you have the resources that you need, you can do what you need to do. So,
yeah.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Thank you all. Thank you all as well. I hear my virtual coffee maker going off. So I was going to ask another question. Gabrielle knows when that goes off, it's time to go. But I'm definitely going to reach out to you all again, maybe the summertime. Talk about a few more things, especially I'm curious. Ms. Deal kept saying, "Oh, but that's for a whole nother podcast." But she gave me like three podcasts in what she was saying. And so, man, I think you all each of you all have such an awesome perspective, and to let the audience know. I mean, they're doing some awesome things. As you can see, Ms. Dale does some stuff behind the scenes. She can help you with the money now. She knows how the money works for institutions.
Stop saying that. People be calling me, stop saying that. I just been blessed, highly favored, lucky, know some people right about now. So I'm afraid we're gonna have somebody call me and I ask them, like, you know what? I can't help you this time. I can't help. Hey, look. I know, right? I only had a 14-year streak. I don't know what happens if I ever tell somebody like, no, I can't find you no money. I'm gonna be mad. The joke is the Williams and Dr. Dismus was at a basketball game last year, white championship game. And young ladies had applied to Jackson State and said she got in and said that she needed some money for school and said that she had applied for the summer program. I said, Dr. Hudson, let me go ahead and talk to her. And legit, he said, well, hey, if you don't get in, call me and let me know if you need some additional funds, let me know. And I gave her information. I wrote her a letter out literally in her phone and she sent it to him and she wrote me back and she said he covered everything. They found some money for me. Wow. So that was at the basketball game. So that's why. So that's what his little joke with me is that if you need some money, call me. So I say, it was about relationships and he just happened to be at the game and that was my first time meeting her. I was like, oh, well, wait, he's right here. Let me just, I said, and she said, now who is that? I said, that's the president of the institution. I said, if he said you can get in or he's going to find you a spot, he's going to find, he'll find you a spot. So I'm telling y'all, don't call me.
Call her, Alabama.
No, leave it for Alexander.
I think I might want to call. I think I might want to make a phone call.
See,
I'm gonna call you.
No.
Listen, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling
y'all lovingly, no, do not. I'm telling y'all my I love, no, do not.
Listen, see, and not just that. Miss Friedel knows how it works and how to make things like. I believe you're gonna be in those spaces one day to actually help that flow of money to be. On the same level. She really does know her stuff. And Dr. Goodson, politically, administratively, she knows what to do. She knows definitely. I have some heavy hitters, and the Williams. I don't know if they want me to tell you this, but they have a church. It's pastor and first lady. He didn't introduce himself as that, so I didn't say anything. But I'm gonna say something. But the reason why, and their mind, if you see their mindset, and they're doing a great work in Utah to get people mindsets changed. And I feel the exposure they're gonna expose. I believe it was before Christmas. Pastor Cypher Williams was telling me a little bit about the vision there, and it's akin to what we're talking about. All the stuff that he wants to do. So they tell you these guys are some heavy hitters. If you can reach out to them at every whatever sector. Miss Williams, I know y'all already heard the podcast with her on it. She understands psych, I don't know how to say it, psychology and all that stuff. That's it. That's where it was. Am I right? Yeah. So yeah. So by the way, look, I'm doing side conversation. I'm like my mom more and more. She has like 5 different conversations in one. But I think I'm gonna have to get you and someone else to talk about Black mental health. That's yes. So look out for that. Look out for a text message from me. But again, okay, yes, I see my virtual person saying the coffee is ready and all that good stuff. So thank you all for stopping in the coffee shop. Thank you all for listening to us. I hope you heard some things. I have some awesome things I heard that was very impactful to me. I guess my closing shot is exposure. If I had been exposed to more, I think I would have finished. It wouldn't have taken me so long, But God has a way of turning things. I wouldn't have met the love of my life. So it's exposure though. Let's get ourselves in a place to expose every kid, every person to higher education, to something that fits them, and something that they can, have an experience with and learn from and be successful in. And I hope that whoever listens to this podcast, maybe it's an administrator or maybe it is a person that works in the government, hopefully, that can hear this and take this and put us, put us on the same footing where everyone can have a great experience in higher education. Thank you all, and I will see you later.